I want to start today by saying thank you to Dr. Philip Johnson, our school president, his wife, Dr. Renee Johnson, and all of the faculty and professors here for supporting us as we've achieved our education. Let's give them a round of applause. I also want to extend a special thanks to my parents who are here. It's thanks to your love and support that I'm standing here today. Students, let's give a round of applause to all of our parents. For some of us, not from this area, that got here freshman year, or most of you parents who drove or flew up here, you probably thought at some point, I must be lost. But there's something special about this place that causes you to stop, no matter how lost you are, and look to your right, and look to your left, and realize how uniquely beautiful this place is. I want to tell you all a story about a time I was lost. As most of you can see by my ridiculous cap and gown, I was recently commissioned as an officer in the United States Army. As part of the requirement to achieve this commission, each cadet who is a student enrolled in the Reserve Officer Training Corps, or ROTC, while attending university, must complete a 1-month exercise in Fort Knox, Kentucky. Now for a part-time Youper, Fort Knox, Kentucky in the summertime is like a nightmare on fire. For 2 weeks of this training exercise, myself and 39 others who made up my platoon or team spent every night and day out in the woods in Kentucky playing our war games. We were given missions every day that included key leader engagements with village elders, reconnaissance of every tree in the forest, and yes, even tactically attacking our enemies designed to test our leadership skills. Well, one day we were given a mission around 4 p.m. that we would attack the opposing forces who were located just outside a village. At this point in training, I'd been signaled out as someone who's very proficient at land navigation, so I was tasked by my platoon leader with being the point man for our mission. I was given the map to plan a route to the village and told we'd be stepping off at 8 p.m. Now, I was planning my route, something in the back of my head kept playing through the scenario. If we leave at 8, we probably won't be coming back until around midnight. Isn't it dark around midnight? Don't worry about it. We'll be fine. Well, when 8 p.m. finally came around, we hurled our combat gear on our back and set off from a makeshift home we made in the middle of the forest. As we were walking, that voice in the back of my head spoke again. It's probably going to get dark when we get back. Okay, all right. I'll set markers for myself so I can remember how to get back. As we were walking through the woods, I would make a mark in the ground or break off a tree branch. Eventually, we walked right up onto this tree. Now, this is no ordinary tree. This tree came straight out of the ground, made a 90-degree turn, and continued to grow parallel to the ground. I thought, wow, hey, that's pretty cool. You know, maybe this tree could be one of my markers. So I set it, and we continued on to the village. When we got there, it was already starting to get dark. Like clockwork, our train took over, and we set up for an attack on the enemy forces around the village. At around midnight, we finally conducted the attack under the cover of darkness. It was actually a lot of fun. Finally, after our attack, my entire 40-man team ran back into the cover of the woods to reconsolidate. As we gained accountability with smiles on our face, my platoon leader walked over to me and gave me some very bad news. Okay, McLaughlin, take us home. Needless to say, my heart sunk. I asked if anyone else had any idea where we were going, but only found out I was the only one who had any idea where we were. It was pitch black in every direction, and although I knew we were on a path that would take us to another one of my marks, I had no idea how to get us back in the dark. I was lost, but I didn't show it. I had a responsibility to my team, and I was determined to bring them home. With every possible adversity pointed against me, I walked to the front of the platoon and led them into the darkness. I hit my first sign with a huge sigh of relief. At least I wasn't that lost. But I was much more worried about my next mark, that 90-degree tree. I walked all 40 of us off the path and into the whistling forest. After about 20 steps, I stopped everybody. I had no idea where I was. With all the adversity in the world pointed against me, I grabbed a buddy and one of my instructors who had 25 years of experience in the Army, and we went out to find that 90-degree tree. After about 20 steps, I stopped again and looked in a very visibly desperate panic. As a combat experienced soldier, my instructor spoke up and asked me, "What are you looking for?" And out of pure instinct, I responded with, "A tree, Sergeant." I will never forget his response. He paused and looked to his right and looked to his left and looked me square in the eye and said, "Are you blind, cadet?" Needless to say, my buddy started laughing, and I kind of felt like the platoon clown. But just as my buddy began to stop laughing and my sergeant began to realize how funny he was, like a light shone from the heavens, there was this 90-degree tree. I shot up and ran over to the tree. "Sergeant, I found my tree! I found my tree!" And we all ran back to the platoon and I marched everybody confidently to the tree. From this point, I knew the rest of the way back. As we marched back into the makeshift house in the middle of the forest, my platoon leader ran up to me and gave me a huge hug. She thanked me and said, "How did you do it? How did you get us home?" And without thinking, I said the one word that came to my mind: Sisu. For those of you who aren't familiar with the word Sisu, it's a Finnish saying that translates to grit, bravery, resilience, hardness. And I know it sounds corny to most of us students who had to take the class Sisu seminar our freshman year, where we learned about our school's heritage and the meaning of the word Sisu. But at that moment in time, everything I learned from being a student at Finlandia came together. What makes us at Finlandia students unique is our grit. And what gives us our grit is this community. Many of us are going off into the big world after today, and most of us will be looking for jobs. Oftentimes, one of the most used questions in a job interview is, what makes you unique? Well, for us as Lions, that answer is simple. We have Sisu. We braved the coldest winters, spent all night studying for finals. Many of us fought hard as student athletes, and all of us pushed through times where we felt lost. But what those experiences gave us was something bigger than ourselves. It made us part of a community of hardworking, gritty Yoopers that are ready to take on the challenges of the world. Thank you, class of 2017. You've all earned it.